Hey everybody, another replay in the E5 here on Tundra, showing just how flexible this thing can be and why it is one of the better heavies to play pub matches in. So I'm playing platooned up with Deadmon. We're both in E5s, which makes us a very flexible platoon. If anything needs shoring up, we can do it. The E5 has good enough mobility to get from one side of the map to the other much quicker than most heavies can. Initially, I decided to go west, which is what I normally would do in a heavy tank. In mediums on this map, I'll either go to the hill, depending on how many fast mediums I only have, or I'll cut up the 2 and 3 lines through that little village there. With heavies though, it's usually a safer bet to come down the west side, and then once you feel out what the enemy have there, you may need to shift one way or the other. You can go up the 2 and 3 lines in a heavy, you can also go east, but the east tends to be a very cluttered area, very claustrophobic. Lots of tanks trying to push in up that hill and it's just a mess. This side, while it's similarly constricted, you do have a bit more room to play with because you've not got mediums running up, cutting between you trying to get up the hill. Sorry if I sound a little off, I think I'm starting to come down with something. I know my mic's been a little quiet in the last few videos. I'm not sure why, because I've got it turned all the way up. I think it's probably just the wiring's on its way out. I'll have to get a new microphone pretty soon, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me well enough to figure out what I'm saying, or at least guess at what I'm saying. We've finally run into some opposition here. The IS-7 is really the only scary thing in that group, and if it wasn't for him, I'd happily push face first into them. However, we have an E3 and an E100 on the corner, and not a whole lot in the middle. Those two should be able to easily handle anything on that corner. They're only fighting a 17 technology tier raids that come with right as I decide to turn around and head back to base with Deadmon in tow, a bat chat comes over and tries to pounce my load punter. It doesn't work out so well for him because he actually happens to run into a pair of angry E5s. 50-120 goes down, trying to bail the bat chat out. The bat's actually got away, but he's very low on health and very soon will be dead. I've refocused my attention meanwhile on the M46. The enemy are really starting to get too close to our cap for comfort, so as Deadmon finishes off that bat chat, I start pushing across towards the cap zone. The Löwe is the closest target on my right. Deadmon's got a shot into it already. The Löwe starts turning, right as I whiff a shot over the back of his turret, but the 30B is a bigger threat to me, especially since the Löwe just exploded. Looks like the 30B is going to try and run away across the bridge. The pattern has now been reinforced by a T-57, however, they are actually running into some pretty staunch opposition there. It looks like our 4502 is keeping them busy. The 30B has had second thoughts about running away and seems to be engaging our mediums over the bridge. However, it doesn't last very long. And now it's the T-57's turn. A pair of E5s working together can put out a lot of firepower very quickly. Although the E5 has the lowest damage gun of a heavy tank at tier 10, it's very fast firing and accurate, which makes it an excellent support tank, and as I've said before, basically makes the E5 play like a giant medium. As you can see here. So things have kind of turned around. Our team is coming out on top. It's kind of funny if you look down the list of surviving players on our team and note the colours of those players. We had a much better team overall than the enemy did, but we did lose quite a few people early on, and that big gap in the middle of the map let them come home to the base. Thankfully, we had enough decent players to turn the thing around. And myself and Deadmon have been using our tank's mobility to good effect. Enemy Carnarvon's backing away in terror. There's really not much we can do to a pair of E5s from the front. think he's actually firing HE. In fact, I'm sure he's firing HE. So he should have been firing AP or APCR at us. He would have at least penned us, although he wouldn't have done a whole lot of damage. The Carnarvon's alpha is just kind of too low for a heavy at tier 8. Anyway, all up, we get 7 kills between the two of us, quite a monstrous amount of damage, and the game is turned around. Not entirely because of us. Of course, if we hadn't had the E100 and E3 to hold that flank when we abandoned it, we would have been in trouble. Even though those tier 8 heavies weren't much of a threat to us from the front, if they managed to pursue us and fire at us as we moved away from them, it would have been very unpleasant. The E5 has no rear armor to speak of. In fact, many tanks can pen its rear armor with high explosive. Anyway, that's that. That's pretty much what makes this the go-to flexible heavy. Always has been, probably always will be. The T-57 kind of overshadowed it for a while because of the autoloader, but with that recently being nerfed a bit to give the AMX-50B a second wind, the E5 also getting an armor buff when it was updated to an HD model, the E5 is back on top. There is really no better tier 10 heavy for general purpose use than the E5. The IS-7 is the best assault heavy. The E100 and Mouse are probably the best defensive heavies. Maybe now the Japanese ones would have some claim to that, I'm not sure. But if you just need a good, flexible Swiss Army knife of a tank, look no further than the E5. In keeping with the Americans' tendency towards good general-purpose tanks that do everything well, but don't do anything spectacularly. So really just a very, very solid vehicle, and absolutely one worth picking up. Thanks for watching. As ever, I will catch you guys on the next one.